Welcome to the deep dive. Really excited about today's topic.
Me too. It's fundamental stuff.
Yeah, we're jumping into meta-analysis, and we're drawing inspiration here from the great content over at the Academic Practices Instagram account.
Oh yeah, they post some really useful insights.
Definitely. So, okay, let's unpack it. Meta-analysis. What is it, like, at its core?
Well, basically it's a statistical method, right? You take a whole bunch of scientific studies that are all asking pretty much the same question.
Okay.
And you combine their results statistically.
Right, combining them. And why is that so, powerful?
Ah, well, that's the key bit. Think about it. You might have, say, 10 studies on one topic, but maybe one has a small sample, another was done somewhere specific.
Yeah, they're all slightly different.
Exactly. A single study only gives you, like, one piece of the puzzle. Meta-analysis tries to put those pieces together to see the whole picture.
So you get a clearer trend.
Precisely. You find those general trends, and the results you get are usually much more robust, more generalizable than what you'd get from just one study alone. It's sometimes called an analysis of analyses.
An analysis of analyses. I like that. A quantitative synthesis, basically.
That's a good way to put it. It estimates the overall effect by combining something called effect sizes from the individual studies.
Effect sizes. Okay, What are those exactly?
So an effect size is basically a number that tells you the strength or magnitude of the finding in that specific study. Like how big was the difference or how strong was the connection they found.
Got it. So it standardizes things across different studies.
Pretty much, yeah. Even if they use slightly different ways to measure things.
Yeah.
Then the meta-analysis combines these effect sizes using a weighted average.
Weighted average. Okay. Why weighted? What determines the weight?
Good question. The weight usually reflects how accurate or reliable that study's estimate is thought to be.
So like based on how many people were in the study?
Often, yes. Sample size is a big factor. A study with, thousands of participants generally gives a more precise estimate than one with 50.
Right.
So that study gets more weight. It contributes more to the overall average. You're giving more credit to the more reliable data points.
Makes sense. So it sounds like quite a process to actually do one of these.
Oh, it is. It's rigorous. The source we looked at, Academic Practices, kind of lays out the main steps. First up, you need a really thorough literature review.
To find all the relevant studies out there.
Exactly. You need to cast a wide net. Then comes the data selection and coding part.
So choosing which studies actually make the cut.
Yeah, and this is super important. You need strict criteria. Are these studies similar enough? Are we comparing apples to apples here? You define what gets in, what stays out, and then you pull out or code the key data you need from each included study, like the effect size, sample size, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you've found them, you've screened them, you've got the data, then the stats.
Then the stats. That's the effectiveness and heterogeneity analysis. You calculate that overall combined effect size using the weighted average we talked about.
The main finding.
Right, the best estimate of the overall effect. But, and this is crucial, you also analyze heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity. Checking if the studies disagree.
Sort of, yeah. It means checking how much the results vary from study to study. Are they all pointing in roughly the same direction? Or are the findings all over the place? Understanding the variation is really important.
Ah, okay. So it's not just the average, but also the spread.
Exactly. And finally, you get to the interpretation of results. Drawing conclusions, finding patterns, thinking about what that heterogeneity means, what are the limits.
And you need special tools for all this, I imagine, not just a calculator.
Definitely not, huh? Yeah, the source mentioned a few. There's software like Comprehensive Meta-Analysis or CMA. Revman is another big one, especially used for Cochrane reviews.
Right, I've heard of Cochrane. What about standard stat software?
Yep. R is huge in research, and there's a package called Metaphor that's really powerful and popular. JSP is another one. It's open source, free, pretty user-friendly.
And even the big names.
Yeah, things like Stata and SPSS, they often have add-ons or specific commands you can use to run meta-analyses too. So lots of options depending on what you're used to.
Wow, okay, so it's a detailed process, specific tools. Bringing it all together, what does this mean for you listening? Why should you know about this?
Well, I think understanding meta-analysis really helps you grasp how science progresses, how researchers try to build on previous work and synthesize all this information that's out there.
Yeah, it's not just one study popping up in isolation.
Exactly. It's a structured way to combine findings, even if they seem contradictory sometimes, to get a more complete, more reliable picture of what the evidence overall is saying.
It helps sort the signal from the noise, maybe.
That's a great way to think about it. And what's fascinating here is how it provides this structured method.
Ah.
But it also raises a question, doesn't it? Yeah. If we know that combining studies like this gives us clearer trends, a potentially more accurate estimate, how might knowing about meta-analysis change the way you personally interpret the findings of just one single study the next time you read about one?
That's definitely something to think about.